Hello, this is Eric D. Kirk for MamaWorld.com, and in this tutorial I want to explain to you how to use the Keep Current Frame option of MochaImport Plus to move images with your track, and I also want to explain why you should never use null objects to do that, although it seems to be such a simple solution. So here I have this video, and I already tracked the street in Mocha and loaded the tracking data into MochaImport Plus. If you don't know how to do that, please first watch our tutorial about stabilized precomps, where I explain that in full detail. I also prepared this image here in Photoshop that we want to move with the track now. Later I want to set the blending mode of this image to multiply to combine it with the background, but for now we'll leave it at normal blending mode because it's easier to see what is going on. When you want to move layers, it might seem intuitive to use the Move Layers function, but as you can see, this gives us a warning because it is usually not a good idea. Let's do it anyway now. As you can see, we have a null moving with our track and the image is parented to it. It is moving with the track, but the result is not accurate at all. So you might think that the track is not accurate, and to check that, let's open Mocha. In the layer properties, we set this 16 by 16 grid as an insert clip, and now you can see that it moves very accurately with the track. So the track itself is not the problem is just how we used it. If you take a look at the tracking options of Mocha, you can see that it can track translation, scale, rotation, skew, and perspective deformation. If we apply the tracking data to a null layer, or actually to any layer in After Effects, then only translation, scale, and rotation can be applied to the layer because After Effects layers only have transform controls for position, scale, and rotation, but there is nothing like a skew or perspective property in the transform section of the layer properties. This means if you use null layers to move something with a track, the skew and perspective data is simply ignored, and this causes a lot of inaccuracy. So what alternative do we have to get a 100% accurate result? Well, we need to use the corner pin instead. So we delete the null again, select our image layer, choose the corner pin function, and click Apply. Now we can choose the corner pin effect we want to use and also have some more options here at the bottom. The one that is very important for us is the Keep Current Frame option. This tells MochaImport Plus that it should make sure that at the current frame the image stays exactly where it is, and from its current location it should move with the track. In other words, it should ignore how the corners of the corner pin surface have been set inside Mocha, because otherwise our image would be stretched to fit into the region that was visualized by the checkerboard. So we make sure Keep Current Frame is enabled and click OK. Now you can see that with exactly the same tracking data, the result is much more accurate than it was when we used the Move Layers function. So to finish this shot, we set the transfer mode to multiply to blend it nicely with the background. Of course, we would also need to mask out the car so that it's above the insert, but that's another story. To summarize what you've learned, when applying tracking data to the position, scale, and rotation of a layer, your results are not accurate because you ignore the skew and perspective data of the track. Instead, you can use a corner pin, and if you use the Keep Current Frame option of MochaImport Plus, you don't need to worry about how to set the corners because MochaImport Plus will move the layer based on its current position. Again, this is Eric D. Kirk for MamaWorld.com, and we'll see you next time.